Well, everybody, welcome and thank you for attending this masterclass number 3. And here we're talking about managing production and operations in a new private OT practice. So we're talking about efficient production and operation management being crucial to the sustainability and the growth of your private practice. We're talking about habits, really. And this is quite a long presentation, but it's divided into a basic presentation plus a number of templates that I've just suggested for you that you can start bringing into your businesses, your new businesses, your existing businesses as a form of discipline, because it directly impacts service delivery and client satisfaction at the end of the day. We're talking about structured operations, streamlined processes, reduce waste, and enhance productivity, which allow practitioners to focus more on patient care. We're talking about setting clear operational goals to establish a roadmap for improvement, enabling you, the practitioner, to track progress, allocate resources effectively, and to adjust strategies where necessary in your business. So the key points to focus on in this regard is developing a great operations plan that outlines your daily, your weekly, and your monthly tasks. And it does sound a little like micromanagement, but that, as a CEO of a business, that's exactly what you have to do. Initially, in setting it up, you do have to micromanage your business into daily, weekly, monthly tasks so that you've got seamless practice management in place. Now, the back of your mind might be, but hold on a moment. I'm one employee, maybe 2 employees in this business. Bottom line is, with this discipline, you're setting a culture in your business for growth and for expansion, and importantly, for delegation. A CEO is never going to want to micromanage to this extent in terms of daily, weekly, monthly tasks, and is going to want to delegate that to someone who's more in operations or administration in your business when you've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people working with you and for you. You want to identify key operational needs, including your staff requirements and your compliance with health regulations, so that you're prioritizing essential actions. And you want to create checklists for your daily, weekly, monthly activities to maintain consistency and accountability among staff. The more you grow, the more independent contractors, the more employees you have on board, the more difficult it is to maintain consistency and accountability at the end of the day. And if you do not have a culture of micro control, micro reporting, micro analysis from the get-go, it's a lot more difficult to bring it in once you have grown your staff complement in your business. You want to implement efficient task delegation, and you want to have time management under control. And we'll talk a lot more about that in a little while. So in developing an operations plan, you want to create a detailed operations plan outlining, as we've said, your daily tasks, such as your client intake, your treatment sessions, and your equipment checks to ensure smooth daily functioning. You want to establish weekly operations that include staff meetings, inventory management, and scheduling adjustments to meet clients' needs effectively. You always want to make sure that whatever you have in terms of scheduling in your business is scalable, also pivotable and changeable. It's your job to make sure that that's what's taking place in this regard. So you want to implement monthly maintenance schedules for equipment, financial reviews of your business, where you want to monitor performance and ensure compliance with your operational standards. And in every one of these is something you need to be focusing on. In each of these is something you need to be focusing on. Your maintenance schedules for your equipment, your financial reviews of your business, and to monitor performance and ensure compliance with the operational standards of your business. There are project management tools and software that is available for organizing and tracking tasks in your business. For example, project management tools like Trello and Asana, which facilitate the organization of your tasks by allowing users to create boards, lists, and cards for different projects. And your mentors, I know, have a whole set of applications that they use in your businesses. We discussed it at our last mentor get together a couple of weeks ago. And these tools enable team members to assign tasks, set deadlines, monitor progress, ensure accountability and transparency. And more importantly, you don't have to build your own management information system in the process. You want to have as much as you can visual representation of your tasks, which help in identifying bottlenecks, reallocating resources effectively, and improving the workflow of your business. So project management tools, critically important. I don't know if there is a central application and tools analysis done within OTASA. I think there could be, there should be. And in fact, there should be some kind of operational help in everybody getting up and running and using those tools, not just new businesses. So in terms of identifying your key operational needs, you've got to evaluate your current staffing levels and identify gaps and your hiring needs. It doesn't mean you can fill those hiring needs now, but you need to know you've identified the gaps. So when you're ready, when you have the right cash flow and you can fill those hiring needs, where essentially you're saying, I can handle 10 units on my own. But if I have someone to help me, I can now handle 16 or 17 units together. And more importantly, with each person, I can bring on another 5 to 7 units. That's how you plan on your hiring needs in your business, based on your being able to pay for those needs. Where you ensure compliance with health regulations by reviewing local laws and standards for private practices, for small businesses. Where you assess equipment required based on the services offered and therefore your advanced fields of practice that OTASA would be recognizing you in. Those are your key operational needs. Staff, health regulations, assessing equipment requirements, etc., and being able to offer comprehensive platter of services to your clients. So there's this concept of SMART, setting SMART goals for your operation, where you establish specific goals for staffing, such as hiring X number of therapists by Y date, where you define measurable criteria like achieving compliance with health regulations, and where you set achievable targets for resource allocation to ensure operational efficiency. So that's what SMART is about: specific, measurable, achievable, and reasonable targets. In terms of operational checklists, you want to have daily checklists, which include tasks such as setting up your treatment rooms, checking equipment, documenting client sessions. You want to have weekly tasks, which may encompass staff meetings, inventory checks, admin reviews, and therefore maintaining a consistency and quality in service delivery. Using tools like Todoist and Microsoft To Do facilitates easy access to checklists, allowing for efficient tracking and the management of tasks across different task frames. Just before I move on to task delegation and time management, is there anybody who wants to ask a question or say anything? Because I am running through it relatively systemically, and I'm conscious of the fact that unless there's engagement, this can become very dry stuff. So is there anybody who wants to ask a question or make a statement based on what's been said to date? All right. So let's get back to it then. So task delegation. Effective delegation allows practitioners or the owners of these private practices to focus more on client care. It enhances operational efficiency by distributing workload amongst team members, obviously graded team members who can take on different volumes, different complexities of work. Always remember, in a private practice, you're signing off on every single patient interaction in your business. You aren't a WeWork where you're renting chairs to practitioners. You're an employer who, even if on an hourly basis, is contracting practitioners in to enhance your business. And therefore, in distributing the workload, as the CEO of the business, you're taking ultimate responsibility for that workload. There must be clear delegation, which improves accountability and performance within the team, never forgetting that there is a central force in terms of quality assurance and quality control in your business. You cannot obfuscate that. You cannot delegate that away as the owner of the business, because ultimately it is your neck on the line should anything go wrong in that business, and should you have to call in any claims against you of negligence or anything which might tap into your liability insurance. So it's very, very important you understand that, colleagues. From a time management point of view, there are multiple techniques. So for example, there's time blocking, which involves scheduling specific blocks of time for tasks, enhancing focus. Then there's something I'm going to go into in a little while called the Pomodoro technique, which uses intervals of work followed by short breaks to maintain productivity in your business. And implementing any of the time management techniques leads to better time utilization and reduced burnout. And as the CEO of your business, monitoring the potential for burnout, particularly amongst your client-facing practitioners, is critically important in your business. So in terms of strategies for effective client scheduling, you have to implement an online booking system to streamline appointment scheduling and also appointment changes. You have to use reminders and follow-ups to reduce no-show rates and to optimize client flow. And you have to analyze appointment patterns to identify your peak times and to adjust your staffing according to those peak times. And so it should always happen on a ratio of 1 to a minimum of 3 or 4, that if you've got one full-time therapist, for argument's sake, you should have 2, 3, or 4 based on volumes who are on call, who are sessional workers, possibly working on an hourly rate rather than on a retainer. That's how you should look to balance your staff complement in your business. As far as client documentation is concerned, you've got to maintain organized digital records to ensure easy access and compliance with the regulations. That means you need to be aware of the Health Profession Council's regulations when it comes to client retention, client documentation, and documentation retention. You've got to regularly update your client files with session notes and your treatment plans for continuity of care. That's a legal requirement on you to have client files, to add session notes to your client files, and to have treatment plans which are continuously reviewed between you and your client for continuity of care. It's not something you can get around, and it's certainly not something that you can avoid. You should be utilizing standardized templates to ensure consistency and thoroughness in that documentation. Dorothy, can I ask you to comment possibly on standards in relation to client documentation that you guys as seasoned OT practitioners actually follow?
We follow the HPCSA guidelines, all the ethical guidelines. They've got guidelines, and I can't remember which document it is, but there's more than 10 different documents, and there is on practice for client documentation. That is standard.
And who audits that you are implementing that in your practices?
Well, they're not auditing yet your client documentation, and it's through CPD activities that OTASA assist members to know, to have all the information on hand. I don't know if other seasoned private practitioners wants to answer this, but there's not other client documentation or best practices. We follow the HPCSA guidelines.
But on a purely voluntary basis, right?
That's at this stage a voluntary. They want to change it by having another set of principles where your licensing that you will have to renew. They have tried this now for a few years and it's not yet rolled out.
Thanks, Dorothy. Deborah, I see you've got your hand raised.
Yeah. Medical aids at time to time audit, and they may ask record keeping, and that has happened a few times.
And what is it that they want to see, Deborah?
Basically, the HPCSA booklets, I think it's booklet 9, Dorothy, if I'm correct. They want to see the daily note keeping of patients, that they've been seen, length of time, intervention, so that there's definite note of you seeing the patient.
Okay. We are implementing a practice audit standard in OTASA, which will relate to all of your practices, those people who are involved in the NVC process, both mentors and mentees. And that practice audit, so that those practices can be on the register for NHI implementation, will include, by the way, both self-audit as well as external audit of documentation to make sure that there's absolute compliance with the HPCSA guidelines on client documentation. Okay. So implementing productivity techniques and optimizing client flow. So in implementing productivity techniques, it's critically important to set SMART goals to create clear, measurable objectives that drive performance. Utilize workflow automation to streamline repetitive tasks and reduce manual errors. A lot gets lost in the repetitive tasks which are required in your business. And so you need to focus on making sure there are no gaps in the result of those tasks as much as you're dealing with the high-level stuff, which is mainline therapy. You want to regularly review and adjust the workflows to identify bottlenecks and improve efficiency. Initially, there's no automated process. Initially, you have to learn to do this manually, and then from there move into some kind of a semi-automated state of, for example, Excel, and only then move over to a fully digitalized system where you're taking your eye off the ball because you're trusting the system itself. But if you don't do it from a labor perspective up front, and you go to digitization far too quickly, you are going to lose things in the process. And you're only going to find out what you've lost when it comes to audits on your activities, when it comes to claims against your insurance policies, etc., etc. So set those SMART objectives, utilize workflow automation, and review and adjust workflows manually from the get-go, from the moment you open these businesses. In terms of optimizing client flow, you want to design efficient client flow systems to minimize wait times and enhance client experiences. You want to implement scheduling strategies, maximizing appointment times while ensuring quality care. And you want to use electronic check-in systems to speed up the initial process and to reduce congestion. Although I must say that in South Africa, my understanding is that there are very few automated check-in systems amongst private practitioners in OT, but I stand open to correction. Is there anybody in the room who in fact does have those electronic check-in systems capable of speeding up intake processes and reducing congestion? Is there anybody that actually has that process in place? Yeah, the sort of informal research we've done that has determined that it's mostly manual checking in systems. And if there's going to be speeding up of intake processes, it's because your client records are properly managed and properly accessible in your business. Congestion normally occurs when there is something that's gone wrong with your initial booking system and adjustments to that booking system. What's very important in terms of growing your business is the notion of a culture of continuous improvement and regular feedback activities. So regular feedback from clients and staff is essential for identifying those areas which need improvement and enhancing service quality. Never be afraid to ask a client directly, are there elements of the service you've received which in your mind are questionable or you think can be enhanced. And then there are other things that have really impressed you in this business, because it's my business. I want to know if you've been impressed. I also want to know if you've been challenged and aggravated by how we do things in this practice. You want to utilize tools like SurveyMonkey or Google Forms to gather structured feedback effectively and to ensure anonymity for honest responses. I'm wondering if it wouldn't be worthwhile between now and the next masterclass actually scheduling a workshop for you. It doesn't have to be more than 45 minutes on using Google Forms, on implementing Google Forms in your business, on doing regular customer satisfaction surveys, on analyzing the data you get out of those Google Forms. Do you think that that would be advantageous, or do you feel that the majority of you are masters of Google Forms to the extent that you wouldn't need such a refresher? Thoughts?
Please, will you put that also on the agenda?
All right, good. I think it's quite important. Thanks, Dorothy. Okay, so we move on to number 3, analyzing feedback data to identify trends, to make informed decisions, and to implement changes that address concerns and improve practice operations. So it really will be 2, and it will be 3. 2, which is Google Forms, and 3, which is the analysis of the information you're getting back that will form the substance of a workshop that we will conduct within the next 2 months. Okay, this is a perennial through any quality management system, is the financial management and budgeting tracker that you have in your business, where you establish a detailed budget accounting for operational costs, including salaries, rent, utilities, supplies, marketing expenses, where you're regularly reviewing the budget, the actual to budget, to ensure alignment with business goals and financial health, where you make adjustments as necessary to address any discrepancies. And here, for me, the golden rule is 10%. If you've got a budget that says, I'm going to spend 100 Rand on the following, and you spend 90 Rand, in other words, you underspend, or you spend 110 Rand, you need to be able to track your actual against your budget, and you need to want to be able to report on anything which is either below or over budget as a culture of good practice in your business. Now, you might think, if I budgeted 100 Rand and I've only spent 90 Rand, isn't that a good thing? Yes, it saved you 10 Rand. It saved you 10% of your budget. But unless you know why, and unless you can repeat the saving by repeating the practice, then whatever saving you've made is inconsequential. It's almost inexplicable, and because it's inexplicable, it's not something you can depend on. So that you look at the same budget line item down the line and you say, well, I know I'm going to have 10% saving on that this time around. Unless you know what you've done to cause the saving, and you know it's replicable, it's not a decent analytical tool. So that's very, very important that you do bear that in mind. Whether you're underspending or you're overspending, I would far rather you went over by 10% and could explain it than you went under by 10% and had no cooking clue as to why you went over, why you saved your 10%. Because it's not a saving. It's an under expenditure on a budgeted item. So at the very least, it means that your budgeting process wasn't true, wasn't effective, wasn't accurate. And you need to work on your budgeting process itself. So you've got to regularly review your budget to ensure alignment with your business goals. And never feel afraid that if your business goals are changing, that your budget should change accordingly. If your business goals are becoming multiples of what you originally thought would be your business goals, then your budget is going to have to become a multiple. And therefore, you're going to have to prove you can afford how you've pivoted your business goals. Financial health is not about saving. Financial health is about the appropriateness of your budget and the replicability of your budget outcomes, be it over or under, and explanation. Making adjustments where necessary to address discrepancies is critically important in the management culture of your business. Now, there's financial tracking software that you can easily access. You've got QuickBooks, you've got Xero, and I personally love Xero to monitor your income and your expenses in real time, where you can make notes on the variances and where you can facilitate better financial decision making. If you set Xero or QuickBooks up correctly, it will indicate discrepancies of overs or unders to you, particularly if you set a threshold at 10%. So anything above or below 10% will be flashed to you for investigation and explanation. And I know you're saying to yourselves, but this is a very small business I'm creating or I've created. Great. Then there's less to do, but you have to do everything to have the culture of professionalism at a management level in your private practice. In terms of resource allocation and inventory management in your business, you want to maintain an organized inventory of therapy equipment and your supplies, which ensures efficient operation, reduces waste, and minimizes downtime due to missing items. You should be having a quarterly stock take of all of this stuff in your business, and your staff should be participating in that stock take. Doesn't matter how minimal your list is of equipment, etc., of supplies, etc. Everyone should be participating in tracking changes in your equipment supply, in your consumable supply, and in your general stock take. Regular inventory checks help identify shortages or overstock situations. They allow for timely reordering, for better financial management, but they allow for a culture of professionalism in your business, which is a small business that you're hoping to grow to a medium-sized businesses with multiple locations, and eventually large businesses with multiple locations. Inventory management tools like Sortly, like Easio Office Inventory, streamline tracking for you, improve accuracy, and provide real-time insights into resource availability. And you're going to find with all of these packages that there are free or heavily discounted small business subscription rates on all of these packages. Remembering it's totally deductible before you pay tax in your business. So make sure you have the right inventory management tools in place. In terms of your long-term vision and goals, ladies and gentlemen, develop a strategic plan that outlines your practice's vision for the next 5 years, focusing on growth, service expansion, and community impact. Create a roadmap detailing specific milestones and actions to achieve long-term goals, including regular assessments and adjustments as necessary. Put into your calendar meetings with your auditors. Put into your calendar meetings with your banks and your financial investors in your business, even if it's your father-in-law. Put that into your calendar so that you have a culture of regular engagement on your long-term visions, on your goals in your business. Engage your staff and your stakeholders in the planning process to ensure alignment with the vision and to foster a commitment to achieving your goals. So as far as tools and methods for implementation is concerned, utilize observation and documentation reviews to identify workflow inefficiencies and the areas you need to improve in. Implement practice management software like Clinico or Jane app to streamline operations and enhance your client management. Establish feedback mechanisms such as client satisfaction surveys and staff feedback sessions, Google Forms, for example, to gather insight on service quality. Never be afraid of acknowledging there's a problem with aspects of your service. Get your clients to identify them, listen to the feedback, acknowledge the feedback, and come up with ways of addressing those shortcomings so that you can reassess the satisfaction of your clients. Employ financial and inventory management tools like QuickBooks, like Sortly, like all the ones we've mentioned, to efficiently track expenses and to manage resources. So before I get to talking about the templates, let me ask, any questions, any concerns, or in fact, any observations anybody online at this moment in time wants to make? Wasn't a rhetorical question. I want to hear from you guys. Do you think that we're going overly digital? Do you feel that this notion of establishing a culture of professionalism, even if it's just you and one other person in your business, is premature? I've heard that said to me. We'll implement all of this when we grow. Now, as a practice that wants to be recognized as an excellent practice, even if a young practice, waiting till you grow is too late, I would submit. But I want to hear from you and your practical experiences. Anyone want to say anything in this regard?
Ivor, I want to say the thing that you mentioned about stock take. I've just realized that stock, not necessarily stock taking, but just unpacking and repacking all of my cupboards and all of my practice equipment has actually saved me so much money in the long run, because one forgets what you have and you forget what you've already bought. So I think not just is it a wonderful suggestion for order and organization, but also as a bit of a financial thing to realize what you actually already have.
Kelsey, that's such a fantastic observation. Thank you. I appreciate that. Anybody else?
Maybe I could just comment. It's
Hello,
Pumla.
Pumla.
I think that the streamlining and the data and looking at your data, digitizing your practice is absolutely paramount. I've just seen such gains in being able to look at my data, and I use my data also for marketing. I use my data as case studies, and I use the whole client survey where I have, let's say, my top 5 clients, and I will call them on occasion and just get input from them from an industry point of view. So I'm not necessarily asking about me. I'm asking about the industry, what works, what doesn't work, what do you appreciate, what don't you appreciate. And I've just found great returns and great improvements that I can put into my own practice by understanding what my clients are looking for and need in order to enhance their goals and kind of their projects.
Pumla,
So I agree with.
Do you have corporate clients?
Yes.
So you see, the corporate client really becomes a partner with you in your research process, especially if there's an HR practitioner in that company that you can work with, because or a central administrator, because what it does for you is it gives you multiple responses to one questionnaire. And so it's very useful if you've got corporate clients, first and foremost, to engage with them, because you'll get far more of a trend of the analysis of your quality of your service, the comprehensiveness of your service, etc., far more of a trend by having one company with 10 people in it that you're working with, as opposed to a one-on-one consultation all the time.
Absolutely.
Good. All right, guys. So let's move on. I'm conscious of the fact that we don't want to take you over an hour on this session. I have specifically been told that there are some of you who have a follow-up session at, I think it's at 7, so I won't belabor the point with you. But what I do want to do now is I just want to cover some of the templates in this presentation, and we will make this presentation available to you for where you can get use from this presentation. So we are now, look, I hope you can see the screen. Can you see the screen?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so
Yep.
the first template, which is being created for you, is a comprehensive operations plan for private OT practices, where we're saying, list your mission statement, list your vision statement, list your short-term goals. Let's look at your long-term goals in that template. Let's look at your practice location. Let's look at your hours of operation, your services offered, and your target market. So in this first template, these are all the things you want to be specific about. Look at roles and responsibilities amongst your staff in terms of occupational therapists responsible for patient assessments and treatment plans, admin staff responsible for handling scheduling and billing, and support staff assisting with patient care and logistics. In terms of staffing scheduling, that schedule includes full-time therapists working Mondays to Fridays, part-time administrative staff covering weekends and maybe after hours, and on-call support staff available for emergencies. So be specific in writing about that in this particular schedule. In terms of your hiring plan, that hiring plan involves recruiting additional occupational therapists as patient volumes increase, and try work on numbers, try work on turnover increase as your rationale per additional person you need to bring on board. So in terms of turnover, we need to see the following turnover thresholds reached. In terms of patient volumes, this is what will trigger additional hires, etc., etc. With target outreach to local universities, job fairs to attract qualified candidates. You also have an opportunity, by the way, of engaging in all sorts of weird and wonderful employment opportunities, which are 1-year fixed-term contract opportunities, where you're actually able to create a learnership opportunity. So even though the person is an OT, even though the person is licensed by the HPCSA, you might want to bring them in on a learnership for a year before you, which is essentially part-time, before you're going to give them any kind of permanent retainer or long-term contract. And importantly, in terms of learnerships, if you manage your learnership properly, you'll find that companies which pay tax can offset the learnership costs against tax. Yes, local universities, yes, job fairs, but you should always be mindful that when you employ people, it should always initially be employing people on a fixed-term contract for 6 months or a fixed-term contract for a year before you bring them on in some kind of semi-permanent or permanent capacity in your business. As far as your client intake process is concerned, clients complete an intake form detailing their medical history, their therapy goals, and personal information before their very first appointment. This thing of clients completing these intake forms when they come to you at the time of their first appointment is something that you should be trying to avoid. You're able to email out the intake forms. You're able to analyze the response to the intake forms before you see them for the first time. You're able to ask questions. You're able to do follow-up checks, possibly with previous OTs or with other professionals involved in their world, so that when you do meet them for the first time, you're not doing an intake. You're actually doing the commencement of therapy with them. In terms of scheduling, appointments are scheduled using online system generally, allowing for clients to choose available times and receive automated reminders. In terms of documentation, all client interactions, assessments, treatment plans are recorded in an electronic health record, which globally is referred to as the EHR system, to ensure accurate tracking. I don't know whether, and I stand open to correction, but Dorothy, do we have standardized EHR systems here in South Africa amongst occupational therapists?
That I don't know. So some of the other OTs will know better, but I don't think so.
So it would be useful then for us maybe as OTASA to identify those EHR systems and look at some kind of standardized approach to implementation. What happens overseas, particularly in the States, is that occupational therapists would sign up a subscription for agencies that are responsible for capturing, for maintenance, for review on behalf of the client practices. But I don't think that we have that kind of scale at this moment in time in South Africa for EHR to be completely and comprehensively implemented. But I stand open to correction. In terms of client feedback, feedback is collected through post-session surveys, regular follow-ups to improve service and to address client needs. In terms of daily operations, talk about how you're going to open the practice, how you're going to prepare your treatment rooms, how you're going to run your client sessions, and how you're going to close off at the end of the day, wrapping up the day by cleaning treatment areas, securing sensitive information, preparing a summary of your daily operations, ensuring that your equipment is turned off and locked up. So there you'd look at daily summary reports, clean treatment areas, secured records and equipment. But if it's opening the practice, from unlocking the doors, turning on the lights, setting up the reception areas, ensuring that necessary equipment and supplies are in place for the day, to preparing your treatment rooms, to your client sessions, where you conduct your scheduled client sessions, you follow the treatment plans and documentation protocols, and you ensure that all client notes are recorded accurately after each session. So daily operations are critically important in this template and your plan. Weekly operations. Staff meetings held every Monday at 10 a.m. to discuss ongoing cases and operational updates. You have to do it by law. I don't think it's done frequently enough. And importantly, from those staff meetings, you need to minute those meetings so that if ever there is a claim of negligence against you, or if ever there is any reason to question your professional practice, then in fact you have the minutes, you have the notes, and you have the session notes that you can be referring to. Inventory checks are conducted every Wednesday to ensure supplies are adequately stocked and reordered as needed. Now, I'm not saying every Wednesday, I'm just putting that down as an example. It's for you to determine what best fits your business and then to stick to that periodic inventory check. Administrative reviews take place every Friday to evaluate weekly performance matrices and address any operational issues. In an ordinary business, this is how you run a department in an ordinary business. And then monthly operations, where you conduct financial reviews on the last Friday of each month to assess budget adherence, profitability, overs and unders. Where you distribute client feedback surveys during the first week of the month to gather insight on services and improvement from the last month, and where you schedule equipment maintenance checks on the 15th of every month to ensure all devices are functioning optimally. As far as your financial plan is concerned, the budget should include projected income from client sessions, insurance reimbursements, medical aids, and any additional revenue streams alongside anticipated expenses such as rent, utilities, salaries, supplies, etc. Utilize accounting software to track your income and expenses in real time, ensuring accurate financial reporting, regular reconciliation of your bank statements with financial records being essential. One of the things you obviously have to battle against is this. The client submits your invoice to medical aid. The client gets paid directly instead of medical aid paying you as a supplier. The client doesn't pay over to you what they've collected from the medical aid. And the only way you can track that is regular client reconciliations. And in fact, because you will have access to your client's medical aid records to actually track whether the medical aid has made those payments or not. Collections becomes quite important with particular clients, particularly corporate clients at particular moments in time. And who you're going to outsource your collections to so that you can remain diplomatic, you can remain professional, but you can insist on payment for services rendered, critically important for you to consider early on in building your business as part of the culture of your business, as part of the regulated activity in your business, where you forecast revenues based on expected client volumes, average session fees, and seasonal trends. Seasonal gaps are seasonal changes are very, very important for you over a year or 2 years to be able to track and to be able to use to identify hiring needs, capacity changes, etc., etc. Obviously, you want to aim for a 20% growth in the first year of your practice and thereafter 20% year on year. That's a standard growth projection that you should be looking to plan for in your businesses. Resource management, and here we're talking about inventory management procedures, equipment maintenance schedules, and supplies ordering and the management of those supplies, and also how you work with your suppliers. So you should at least have an agreement with your supplier that says 30 days from the date of invoice. Many suppliers will say COD, but you're not obligated to pay COD. You're obligated to pay within a reasonable period of time, which is between 15 to 30 working days of having received the invoice from your supplier. And that allows you to manage your cash flow in a more predictable way. So take note of that and try and manage your business by that. And continuous improvement. Utilize client surveys, as we've said. Quality improvement plans. Implement a structured plan that includes setting measurable goals, monitoring outcomes, reviewing processes regularly to enhance your service quality. Professional development. Offer workshops, online training, mentorship programs to support your staff, but also to support the community that you're servicing. And in this regard, and I've said it before, the quicker you can become a thought leader amongst your community that you're servicing and amongst the corporates that you're offering services to, a thought leader in occupational analysis, in reasonable accommodation audits, in rehabilitation audits and rehabilitation activities, a thought leader that says, look to me because I'm a subject matter expert and I'm not just selling you a service, the easier you will rope in the HR professionals that you service in those businesses, and the easier it is going to be for you to be the first port of call every time a corporate needs something or an individual needs something. And your principal referral base for individual client sessions, believe it or not, if you've got a very strong corporate offering, if you've got multiple corporate clients, your principal referral base for your individual clients outside of the corporate environment, so for children, for old people, for people who are on the mend and rehabilitation, for that, your principal referral base will come from practitioners inside the companies you service as cross referrals. And that's what you want to foster, because you become the thought leader in your advanced field of practice recognized by OTASA. Your long-term vision and strategic plan, your 5-year vision, your strategic goals and milestones, your action plan should be included in how you blow up this template. Regularly reviewing and updating the operations plan is crucial to ensure it remains relevant and effective in what we hope will be your dynamic healthcare environment. It allows for adjustments based on feedback, for changing market conditions, and for evolving client needs. We want you to utilize this plan as a guiding document that will facilitate the management and growth of your practice, ensuring that it consistently meets both your client expectations and your business objectives. So now template 2 is about actually assessing your operational needs in that private practice of your own. So it's about, first of all, a practice overview where you're looking at practice names, locations, services offered, current staff, your daily, your weekly, your monthly operations, your staffing needs, your facility equipment needs. But this is your checklist. And this is what we need you to do alongside your policy statement. On template 1, template 2 should be the meat and potato of how you're measuring and prioritizing your needs, where you're able to say, these are my urgent needs, these are my high priority needs, these are my medium priority needs, and as far as my low priority needs are concerned, where I'm implementing advanced client feedback systems for future improvement, evaluating potential software upgrades for administrative tasks. So it goes from the most important to, let's call it, something that needs to be scheduled for the future. As far as your action plan is concerned, that action plan should determine between your urgent needs, your short-term actions, your medium-term actions, and your long-term actions, 6 to 12 months. Template 3 is your operational checklist. And here you're looking at your daily tasks, as we said, your weekly tasks, your monthly tasks, tools and resources, checklist management tips, regularly updated checklist to reflect any operational changes. You'd be surprised how many times I go into a business, a medium-sized business, to find that they're using operational checklists that were established sometimes 10 years ago. Yes, go digital if you can. If you've got the volumes, and if you've got people who can use the digital applications that you're finding. Template 4 is about task delegation and time management. So tasks for delegation. Clearly define the tasks to be delegated. outlining its objective, requirements, and expected outcomes. Talk about the current person. Identify the staff member currently responsible for the task, including their role and their workload. Talk about who in your business could become the potential delegate to be trained up. List the possible candidates for delegation, considering their skills, availability, and interest in the task. The reasons for the expansion on your delegation. The training which would be required of the new person. And then assess the delegation feasibility. Evaluate the overall feasibility of the delegation, considering the delegate's current responsibilities and the task's complexity. I would wager to say that it is here where we determine how professionally structured your business is and how comfortable you are having the people who you're employing actually working in your business. Because the delegation feasibility to some extent is about you as the CEO letting go, going to play golf on a Wednesday afternoon, or going away for a week of well-earned rest, and knowing that your delegation works in your business. There's nothing you need to worry about. This adage of if you wanted to get something done, do it yourself, it's not a professional adage to have in your business, because it means your business, irrespective of the number of people you employ, your business is never going to be a business that employs people. It is always going to be a one-person business where you have 10 spectators watching you do what you do. And that's about ego. That's not about sound business practice. I do want to bring that to your attention. So a delegation plan is critically important, and that's in this template. Delegated task tracking is equally important. It's also in this template. Time management. So time management is critically important, especially when you're a one-person business. So you need to have time blocking, which involves scheduling specific blocks of time for tasks, improving your focus and productivity. And for example, 8 to 9 for project planning, 9 to 10 for team meetings, where you set priorities, assign high, medium, or low priorities to tasks to ensure critical work is completed first. Where you have notes for effective blocking, which include buffer times between tasks, and adjust based on energy levels, on workload, and on emergencies, I would imagine as well. But the one system I want you to maybe think about doing a little bit of exploration about is what is referred to as the Pomodoro time management system. So the Pomodoro technique. This is a time management method which was developed in the 1980s. It utilizes a timer to break work into intervals, traditionally 25 minutes in length, known as Pomodoros. In other words, Pomodoro intervals. These intervals are separated by short breaks, helping to maintain focus, prevent burnout. And the technique is named after the tomato-shaped kitchen timer that the inventor Cirillo used as a university student. Its purpose is to enhance productivity and time management by creating a structured work schedule. If you've got a code for an activity that you're going to build to a medical aid, that activity, if it's a half an hour activity or a 15-minute activity, that's not just therapy. That's an activity which is determined by planning, implementation, review. Planning, implementation, review. For every code claim that you raise against a patient's record, you're doing all three of those things in one code. So if it's 30 minutes, you're spending at least, let's say, 10 minutes planning, or let's say 5 minutes planning, let's say 20 minutes implementation, and another 5 minutes of effective feedback analysis for every time you're coding, every time you're submitting a code. Its purpose is to enhance productivity and time management by creating a structured work schedule around every unit of time you're going to be charging for. So in implementing a Pomodoro technique, you choose a task, you set your timer, you work on the task, and you take a short break. We've seen it in the movies as far as psychologists are concerned. Your time is up. Measure your units of delivery so that you don't burn out, so that you don't run out of time in your day. Schedule a lunch, schedule your tea breaks, make sure you're scheduling your leave. And don't take all of your leave in one chunk of 15 working days. Break it up into multiple chunks. I was speaking to my cardiologist over the weekend, and he was telling me, you know, I'm known as the doctor at the Linksfield Hotel who takes most number of holidays. But I do that for a reason, because when I work like a dog. I work a 24-hour shift. And recognize that in yourself and your own practice. Obviously, subject to who there is in your business who can back you up, or which locums you can be tapping into as and when you need them. Pomodoro technique is critically important. It improves focus, it reduces procrastination, it enhances productivity, it leads to better time management, increased accountability, and importantly, an improved work-life balance for you and for your staff members. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've covered a number of topics in terms of the operational plan and guidelines for your businesses. I'm going to post this presentation on the WhatsApp groups so that you have an opportunity to review them. There's a lot of repetition. In putting together templates, you are going to run with much of the same information from template to template. Determine which ones make sense for you. You might only want one template. That's fine. That's not an issue. This is just giving you an indication of the various ways you should look at your organizational guideline in your business. Not only because you want to justify it to a bank manager as your quality management system, your quality management checklists, etc., but because you want to build that culture in your business of professionalism in doing all of that. And it's just about repetition, repetition, repetition. But equally, and Dorothy, I look to you as an OTASA representative around the table, it's also about creating the tools necessary to back up the organizational planning system to the extent that OTASA members are regularly apprised of these opportunities, of the software available, and of the techniques like the Pomodoro technique and many, many others into the future that can be utilized. Regular review of what the HPCSA guidelines say about things like documentation and therapy sessions as well. It starts here. It doesn't end here. Any questions, any observations anyone wants to make?
I just have to thank you for putting it in such a, I'm quite jealous that I'm not a young therapist anymore that can start a private practice with all the information. So I think the mentees appreciate all the information.
Okay. Any other observations or comments, ladies and gentlemen?
I think just echoing what Dorothy has shared, Ivor, thank you so much. I think it's one thing when we sort of learning about it during the different sessions throughout the learnership, but the way you highlighted it very practically, it was very easy to pick up on and identify what are the resources that can be used.
So importantly, Fatima, thank you. Importantly, let me say this to you, and I'm saying this to you particularly. When you build a business, you're building a business around the controls you're going to have in place. Those controls are reflected in the operational guideline for your business that you're building. It doesn't have to have everything, like it doesn't have to have all 4 templates in place. But what you choose should talk to sustainability, growth of your business, financial control in your business, and your client feedback loop. Your quality management system needs to talk to those things. If you are not so much going to convince an investor to invest in your business, but if you're going to have peace of mind to know when you're going to switch on the expansion switch Or sometimes, and I'm going to say this to you, ladies and gentlemen, this is a lesson not many people are going to want to tell you. Knowing when to call it quits. So when you start building a business, you have all the aspirations in the world around that business. But you will regularly, certainly in your budget reviews, be doing a cost-benefit analysis. If I took this money that I'm using to build my practice, let's say 100,000 Rand, and I put that money into the bank where I'm getting 10% a year, I'm getting 10,000 Rand return on that 100,000 Rand for really not having to do any work. Now, if I put that money into my business and I include my drawings and net profit in the business, am I likely to be seeing 10,000 Rand a year return on a 100,000 Rand investment? If I am, great, because then I can start scaling. However, if I'm finding that I invested my 100,000 Rand and I'm going to have to put another 100,000 Rand in, and I'm told regularly by people you can't take a salary in the first year of your business, and that becomes truer and truer and truer down the line, and I don't get to that break-even point that we spoke about in the previous masterclass, or I get there infrequently enough for me to be satisfied, then I do a cost-benefit analysis, and I know, and this is important for you to bear in your mind, I know at what stage I'm going to decide to walk away from this business. It takes a huge amount of courage after 5 years of working a business to make a decision to close it down. But if all the indicators are there, my financial report is there showing I'm having to keep pumping money into this business, it's not growing, it's not expanding, I can't depend on a client base, so I'm always looking for clients in different places. I don't have corporate accounts, which is it's a massifier in my business. If everything's going wrong on a regular basis, I need to know when to close my business sooner rather than later. That cost-benefit analysis is what's it costing me to run the business, and what am I getting out from this business as a dependable benefit, a sustainable benefit. And so you need to know, you need to have the backbone to move away from complacency and to move away from the comfort of knowing you walk into your business, you open the door every morning, you switch on the machines, and you make a cup of coffee, because that gives you a false sense of security. It doesn't talk to you as a business owner. It talks to you as the mother of the business or the father of the business. And emotion has no place in making a business decision to grow bigger. I want more branches in more provinces, or to shrink. I'm finding that maybe 3 of my 5 branches are profitable, so I need to close the 2 that are bleeding me dry down so that I can consolidate and grow the 3 that are profitable for me, or to close my business. And then to talk about what's the best financial way of closing a business that's failing. And I'm not saying any of you are going to fail. None of you are going to fail. But there might just be at the back of someone's mind failure. Not now, but down the line. You must never be afraid to close a business. Donald Trump, the great global president, Donald Trump, made a habit every 6 years of bankrupting one of his businesses. Because bankrupting a business, like a $1 billion business, allowed him to have a 9-year tax holiday from paying taxes. He could carry that debt forward for 9 years. And you'll see with every big group of company, be it Bidvest or whichever other kind of company out there in this country that's a big national company and multinational company, there are regularly business closures going on where they've got 20 companies, one company will close every couple of years. Why? Because you're creating debt to the shareholders in the business that you can carry forward against future tax. And so there is an entire workshop to be had on when to close your business. I'm not saying that it's something that needs to be preoccupying your minds, but it needs to be something you're conscious of as a business owner. And it might sound strange, my introducing to you this topic when you are only going into your businesses now, but it's so that you're always aware of where that line is. And it's so that you are never afraid of making the hard decisions. No one will take responsibility for your failures. And you shouldn't be giving them the right to take responsibility for your successes either. It's your decision. Gail, I see your hands up.
Yes, I must say now that I'm sort of towards the end of my career, I'm looking at the medical legal field where lots of girls are working, which is actually a field that this sort of information would be very important. With non-payment by clients, number of patients diminishing, it is something that one could look at it, sort of rescuing companies that have 1,000 and sometimes R1 million that's owed to them.
So interesting about that. There are institutions called factoring houses where you would take your book, your debt, and you would give it to the factoring house, and they would negotiate with you that whatever they recover, they would get 30% of the fee, but they would bring you the other 70% that you ordinarily wouldn't have seen. Even your banks do factoring, and it may be that you want to have that discussion when you open your bank account to talk to your bank managers about the services they have for factoring bad debt. Because even if they don't have those services internally anymore, there are agencies that they actually are members of or have built for their client bases. So never be afraid that you've got a big book of bad debt in your business. There are ways to manage through bad debt. Absolutely. You can factor the bad debt, you can enter into debt collection, or if you have to write off the bad debt, that is like a gift that never stops giving. Because if you just write your bad debt off, then you don't have to discount that write-off. You can carry it forward until you've recovered 100% of it plus interest against future earnings. So never be afraid of bad debt. So thank you for that, Gail. But certainly it might be something down the line that we do want to look at an additional workshop on. Thank you for that. Any other observations, any other comments about the positives of this presentation, not the negatives? Okay. Colleagues, thank you all for participating, and thank you for staying beyond the hour. I really do appreciate that. And I look forward to, sorry, Russell, you wanted to say something, sir?
No, I wanted to do a
sorry.
like that.
Russell, I didn't realize I was a doctor.
No, I just want to thank you but then I did the hand raise and not a reaction. Sorry.
As long as you're happy with how we're progressing, Dorothy.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Guys, thank you all for your time. I will post this presentation. Please excuse the repetition. You'll find repetition after repetition after repetition because every template is its own instrument. You can combine, you can change, you can do whatever you want with the information. But I think it's critically important that you do use the templates and use the information, and particularly start applying something like the Pomodoro technique in your businesses. So thank you all very, very much. And I look forward to seeing you at the Masterclass 4 workshop. But before that, we'll look seriously at that workshop that I did refer to in the course of this presentation. So thanks once again, and have a good evening.
A blessed evening for everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.